Hey everyone, welcome back to Caesar's Freedomstead. Today I want to go ahead and show everyone out there how to create and prepare the best garden bed that you can for planting fruits and vegetables. Now what I'm going to show you here is exactly what I've done to grow everything you see here and more. I'll show you some more throughout the video here. But I did just a couple simple things to make everything grow beautifully and quickly. So you all can have a garden bed just like this. Everything here is going to get much bigger than it is. It is actually in its peak right now, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to show you a few things that I did to prepare the soil and to prepare the garden bed for all of your different fruits and vegetables to make them grow really healthy and produce a lot. So let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, so first I want you guys to notice everything that's growing so far. So we have kale right here, growing really well. We're actually going to cut this pretty soon. Have some really large Swiss chard going on in here. We're going to let it get even bigger because Swiss chard will get enormous. So it's a good size right now to cut. We want to get it bigger. And over here to the left, you see a bunch of tomatoes. I'm going to give you guys a close-up on these things because I want you to notice something in particular. I'm going to show you how to get these to be really big and produce a lot, these tomatoes here. But what I want you to see is that there is a variety of things growing in a relatively small space. Now this garden bed here is about 8 by 3. Now it sounds big, and it is, but the trick is that you want to have a lot of different things growing as possible inside of your garden bed. So you want to have the right fruits and vegetables together that will actually complement each other. Now these leafy greens right here do well with partial shade or half shade. And now I put these big tomato plants next to them so that these leafy greens will get sunlight, but they will also get shade. They'll be shaded from the tomato plants at a certain time of the day. When the sun's over here, it'll cast a shadow on these. So these are loving it. That is one of the things that I wanted to establish with our raised bed, is to kind of have complementary fruits and vegetables. So that's one of the things you can do. Put your leafy greens over to a corner or so, or maybe even in the middle, and surround it by some taller growing plants like tomatoes. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to show you the rest of the raised bed here, but I want to show you what's actually in the soil here to help everything grow. We're on the other side of the garden bed here, and what I want to show you here, there are other things growing. These right here are potatoes. We have some more tomatoes coming, and we have cucumbers and radishes over here. I'll show you those in a second. But on this side, what I want you to notice is this side I am still filling up with my biomaterials. So that other side is pretty much complete. We have the dirt in there, we have peat moss, and we have the most important thing, which is all the different table scraps and grass cuttings and leaves, everything that you want to compost together. Everything that you see here is sitting on top of probably about a foot of compost. It's a big layer of compost. We have sticks, we have rocks, we have everything in there for good drainage as well. But let me show you here. Now you want to have this compost underneath all of your plants here. So as you can see, I'm going to point here with my pointer. So we have some radishes here. These all I just planted about a week ago. So these are doing amazing already. So got some cucumbers, some radishes, and over here we have the bush beans. Over here we have a large area of potatoes and big giant potatoes. Now, as you can see, like I told you before, this area hasn't been fully covered yet. You look up, this is all beautifully covered with topsoil. Now, one of the first things you see is I have ashes in here. I mix ashes in with the garden because it's broken down biomaterial. It's really good for your plants, for your fruits and vegetables. And now let's move some of this dirt out of the way here. So under here is going to be our compost. We have all kinds of things in here, like sticks, leaves. Here's a piece of melon, the outside of a piece of a melon. Let's see if we can find some more. We have some grass clippings. See the grass clippings? All these things will be broken down into really great nutrients. Right here, We have an old piece of lettuce. Looks like it's actually growing down in there, but we don't need that. He's going to go down there and give nutrients to everything else. Let's move some stuff out of the way here. Basically, all of our kitchen scraps. You see things are being broken down already down in here. There's a lot of good dirt now. But we have eggshells in there and old vegetables. Anything that you can imagine, even clippings from our tomato plants. If you can see right here, clippings from our tomato plants. What are you doing, Pepper? What are you doing? You looking for moles? She killed a mole out here the other day, and she got a treat. She was good. So underneath all this is a homemade compost. So that is basically the magic to growing all of this really quickly and very beautifully like this, is having a really good layer of compost underneath your dirt. So now I went over what's underneath the soil. Basically a really good compost, been constantly breaking down. And I didn't mention it before, but it was kind of understood. But everything underneath the soil now is still breaking down. You know, I didn't actually put a compost in there. So everything's breaking down as everything's growing. So everything's feeding off of it as it's being broken down. Now, the next thing, you want to have your garden bed to actually have some depth to it. So as you can see, this is about 3 feet. And what I mentioned before is there is about a foot of compost material. So probably about right here, this much compost material is actually below all of this soil here. And so everything that is growing inside of this raised bed, it is not only feeding off of that breaking down material down there, but also has lots of depth to grow. So I do see certain raised beds that look really nice, but they're only about a foot tall. I mean, that's good if you want to plant some radishes. But if you want to get really nice, large, healthy plants, you need to give it some depth. You need to give it some roots to grow. It wants to have some space. So compost, about a foot or so. So like I said, this here is 8 by 3. So if you can get a big raised bed like this, awesome. Put about a foot of compost, and you don't have to do it all at once because that's a lot. Like I said, we started on this half here, probably about where this fence here is, and we filled all this up first. We planted in here, and then we started working over here, and we are finishing up over there. As you saw, we have a little bit of incompleteness at the end. But then you want to fill it with some really good topsoil, some really good dirt. You can have fertilizer in there or not, it's not a big deal, but you can use the liquid feed or a really good fertilizer feed to put on top of there as well. So put sticks, rocks, all kinds of things in there for really good drainage as well. You don't want anything rotting in there. Okay, now the next thing, obviously you want to put it in a place where there's getting plenty of sunlight. So because you do have your sunlight loving plants like your tomatoes, and you do need to give them a significant amount of sunlight every day. Now, if you've seen my other videos, you will notice that I'm a big believer in growing things in the shade as well. I do put some comparison videos on there and growing eggplants, growing lettuce, all kinds of different things. So go ahead and check those out. But like I said, some plants like to have some shade. And right now, these are being partially shaded, these leafy greens right now, and they're loving it. But at the same time, your tomato plants are loving the sunlight. So now this area right here is in the back of our house. So up till about mid-morning, this area actually gets shade. So you do want to give your plants some shade because it gives them a time to kind of rest from the sun. And so they have sun for the entire mid-afternoon to evening. So everything here does get at least 6 hours of sunlight, and they're doing great. So, and this is Florida. So you don't want to have things out in the sun all day in Florida because things will just die. So, but it depends on where you're at here. But definitely put it in a spot where you get plenty of sunlight. All right, so let's go ahead and recap here. I want to just make this kind of a brisk video because there isn't too much to really put into a garden bed, but there are necessary things that you need to do. So number one, you want to figure out what you're going to grow. If you're going to do leafy greens, get a larger growing plant that will give them some shade. On the bottom of your raised bed, you want to put a really good layer, not a couple inches. You know, if you got a small garden bed, you're going to have to, but get a big garden bed so that you could put a really nice layer of a compost and presently breaking down material. Things that are being broken down as everything is growing, so they have this continuous source of nutrients. So put a nice good layer of that underneath. Rocks, sticks, grass clippings when you mow the lawn, food scraps from the table, pretty much everything. You just throw down in there, it'll be broken down. And then you go ahead and put down your layer of your soil on top of that. So put your soil. We like to mix in peat moss with our dirt as well. So that's really, really beneficial, especially to tomatoes. They love it. And once you have those in place, obviously you gotta water it every day unless you get rain pretty often where you're at. I do have to water this every day. I am a big believer in using some plant feed. So stick it in your water and water everything. Some plant feed is really, really beneficial. I don't stick to one or the other. They're just, I get certain ones and I'll use them on and off. So use those as well. And that is about it. I'll make another video in going more in depth into what fruits and vegetables work really well with each other, growing like these do. This is just a little glimpse of that, and everything's doing well. But that is about it for this. If you have any other things that you like to add to your raised bed or some other ideas, please leave it in the comments section. We have a really good bed going on right here, but I am still learning as well. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I earned your subscription, and stay tuned for the next video. Thank you so much.